something feels different lately. You do not need charts, studies, or statistics to sense it. You can feel it in the way people look at one another, or rather, the way they refuse to look at one another. You can feel it in the way a simple conversation can go from polite to tense in the span of a breath. You can feel it in the silence between neighbors who once exchanged warm greetings without a second thought. There is a heaviness in the air that does not seem to come from weather or circumstance. It feels deeper, stranger, almost as if the atmosphere of human life itself has shifted. If you have felt this, you are not alone. And more importantly, you are not imagining it. Many people across the world have been whispering the same thing, each wondering if they are the only ones noticing the cooling of the human heart. The truth is that something in our collective spirit is changing, and it is changing fast. It is not simply because of technology, politics, stress, or the pace of modern life, though all of these play a role. The change feels more fundamental than that, like a tremor that starts in the unseen layers beneath the surface. When you walk into a grocery store and feel a tension that did not used to be there, you are sensing a real shift. When you hear a car horn that carries more rage than the situation requires, you are hearing a real shift. When the simplest disagreement online explodes into a full-scale war of insults, you are witnessing a real shift. Many people have become quicker to anger, quicker to judge, and quicker to assume the worst. At the same time, people seem strangely numb, as if their emotional reserves have been drained without them realizing it. Imagine a constant static running underneath every interaction, almost like an invisible buzz that puts everyone slightly on edge. That is what it feels like now. You hold a door open for someone, and they walk past without acknowledging you. You smile at a stranger, and they look away as if eye contact itself is too vulnerable. Even driving, something that used to be an ordinary part of daily life, now feels like navigating a storm of impatience and simmering hostility. So what happened? Why now? What changed in the last few years to make the social fabric feel thinner and more fragile than before? Why do kindness, patience, and generosity feel rarer, while irritation and coldness feel more common? These questions are not small. They cut into the very core of what it means to be human. And if we want to navigate this moment with clarity, strength, and peace, we need to understand the true nature of the shift, not just the symptoms. Many people try to explain the change by pointing to well-known causes. They say it is because of political division. They say it is because of economic stress. They say it is because of social media, or isolation, or technology, or global uncertainty. All of these explanations contain some truth, but they do not explain the whole picture. They describe the surface, but not the depth. They touch the edges of the wound, but not its center. The deeper truth is this: humanity is experiencing a spiritual shift. This is not about religion, institutions, or doctrine. This is about the invisible dimensions of human experience that shape how we think, feel, connect, and behave. It is about the subtle forces that influence our inner world long before our actions ever show it. It is about the atmosphere of the soul, the emotional and spiritual climate in which we all live. Imagine for a moment that human beings do not only breathe physical air. Imagine we also breathe spiritual air. When that air is clean, people are naturally kinder, calmer, more patient, and more open. When that air is polluted with confusion, fear, hostility, and distraction, people become reactive, defensive, and cold. That is what is happening now. The spiritual atmosphere of our world has become thick with noise, with deception, with emotional overstimulation, with pressure. With a constant flood of information that never gives the mind a moment to rest. People are not only tired physically, they are tired spiritually. And spiritual exhaustion often shows itself as irritability, numbness, hostility, and emotional withdrawal. Here is the strange part. We live in an age of unprecedented connection. There are nearly 8 billion people on the planet, and in theory, every single one of them is only a tap or click away. We have more ways to communicate than any generation before us. We have instant messaging, video calls, social platforms, online communities, and digital spaces that allow us to speak to anyone at any time. But despite all this connection, people have never felt more alone. You can be connected to thousands of people on a screen and still feel painfully disconnected from your own life. You can see hundreds of faces every day and feel invisible to all of them. You can scroll through endless opinions, emotions, and conversations and still feel like you do not belong anywhere. Connection and communion are not the same thing. Connection is simply a link. Communion is shared presence. Connection takes a second. Communion takes courage. Connection is easy. Communion is vulnerable. Real connection requires attention, honesty, and the willingness to be uncomfortable. It requires the ability to listen without preparing a rebuttal. It requires acknowledging the humanity of another person, even when you disagree with them. These skills are harder to practice in a world where attention is constantly fractured and outrage is often rewarded. We are living in a society that is hyper-connected on the surface, but deeply fragmented beneath it. Families are divided by arguments that no one knows how to resolve. Communities are split by ideologies that feel more rigid every day. Friendships fade because no one knows how to have difficult conversations without turning them into battles. It is no surprise then that many people feel like the love in the world is growing cold. That phrase has been written in ancient texts, and it feels more accurate today than ever. You can see the coldness in how people treat one another in small, ordinary moments. A customer snaps at a cashier over a small inconvenience. A driver honks furiously because someone took an extra moment to move. A stranger on the internet mocks someone who is simply trying to express themselves. You can see it in the way compassion has turned into suspicion, in the way disagreement has turned into demonization, in the way vulnerability has turned into something people avoid at all costs. But the most concerning part is not that manners are declining or that people are becoming less polite. It is that the capacity for empathy is shrinking in ways that are difficult to measure, but easy to feel. This is not natural. Children instinctively show kindness unless it is taught out of them. Humans are wired for connection, cooperation, and compassion. If these instincts are fading, something is overriding them. Something is interfering with the natural warmth of the human spirit. This brings us back to the spiritual dimension of what is happening. Beyond the economic tension and political tribalism, beyond the constant stimulation of our devices, beyond the fear and confusion of modern life, there is an unseen field of influence shaping how people think and behave. Ancient wisdom traditions have spoken about this for thousands of years. They describe the idea that human beings are not only influenced by flesh and blood, but also by patterns of energy, emotion, and thought that move beneath the surface of ordinary life. Some people call these forces cultural, others call them psychological, others call them spiritual. But the idea is similar. Humans are affected by currents of influence that operate beyond conscious awareness. And right now, those currents are turbulent. When people seem unusually reactive, unusually volatile, or unusually cold, it is often because they are being shaped by an atmosphere they cannot see. They think their anger is justified. They think their cynicism is wisdom. They think their coldness is a sign of strength. They do not realize they are being pulled by a current that is stronger and deeper than they understand. This is why the world feels unstable. This is why emotional inconsistency has become so common. One day a person is kind and warm. The next day they are distant, harsh, or dismissive. This volatility is not just psychological, it is spiritual, and if we do not become aware of it, we are vulnerable to it. Awareness is the first shield. Discernment is the second. The ability to pause and ask, what is really happening here, is one of the most important skills of our time. When someone snaps at you, you can ask yourself, is this really about me, or is this person carrying a weight that has nothing to do with this moment? When you feel yourself becoming overwhelmed by negativity, you can ask, is this feeling coming from my experiences or from a larger atmosphere influencing everyone? Discernment is spiritual eyesight. It allows you to see through the fog, to separate the person from the influence, the human from the atmosphere around them. But even discernment is not enough on its own. We also need grounding. In a world filled with noise, distraction, and emotional pollution, you need an anchor, something that holds you steady when everything else is shaking. This anchor can be your faith, your values, your love for your family, your commitment to a purpose beyond yourself, or the belief that the world can still be made better. Whatever your anchor is, you will need it more than ever in times like these, because when the world grows cold, your warmth becomes a form of resistance. And that brings us to something essential, something that will shape how each of us moves through the next chapter of human history. There is a quiet truth that many people overlook. Warmth is not just a feeling. It is a force. In a world that is becoming colder, your warmth becomes more powerful, not less. It becomes something rare, something noticeable, something that can interrupt the momentum of the negativity around you. When the world is filled with tension, the person who carries peace stands out. When the world is filled with hostility, the person who responds with gentleness becomes a mirror that shows people another way is possible. When the world is drowning in noise, the person who speaks with clarity becomes a source of grounding. This is why a single warm act, even a small one, matters more now than it did before. But before we go deeper into the power of warmth, we need to understand something else that often goes unnoticed. People today are living inside a paradox. On the surface, they are more connected than at any point in human history. Yet beneath the surface, they are more fragmented, isolated, and emotionally malnourished. It is a strange kind of hunger, not a hunger for food, but for presence, for sincerity, for someone to look them in the eye and truly see them. Many people are starving for this kind of connection without realizing what they are missing. They only sense the emptiness, the restlessness, the agitation, the feeling that something in their life is off. This is one of the reasons people react so strongly to small things. A slight inconvenience feels like an attack because they are already overwhelmed. A simple disagreement feels like rejection because they already feel unseen. A minor mistake feels like catastrophe because their emotional reserves are already depleted. When the heart is tired, the world feels sharper. You may be noticing that people now walk with a kind of spiritual limp. You may see exhaustion in their eyes even if they try to hide it behind smiles or sarcasm or bravado. When someone snaps at you for no reason, it is usually because they are drowning internally. When someone appears cold or distant, it is often because they are carrying something heavy, not because they lack humanity. This does not excuse bad behavior, but it explains it. And understanding is the beginning of compassion. However, compassion does not mean accepting mistreatment. It does not mean letting people use you as a place to unload their frustration. It means recognizing that the behavior often comes from woundedness rather than malice. It means refusing to take things personally that were never personal to begin with. Most hostility you encounter in daily life is not about you. It is rarely about you. It is about the unseen battles people are fighting. It is about the spiritual weight pressing down on them. It is about the noise in their mind that they cannot escape. This is why the practice of pausing before reacting has become so important. A simple pause can keep you from being pulled into the emotional storm of someone else. Many people today think they are fighting other people. They are not. They are fighting the atmosphere around them, the weight on their own spirit, and the confusion in their own mind. They are fighting wounds they never had the space to heal. They are fighting expectations that crush them. They are fighting fear, insecurity, and loneliness. If you forget this, you will start to mirror the coldness around you. You will see everyone as a threat, an enemy, or a problem. You will harden yourself to stay safe. And while hardening yourself may protect you in the short term, it will cost you something far greater in the long term. When you harden your heart, you do not just keep pain out. You also keep joy out. You keep tenderness out. You keep meaning out. You keep the possibility of connection out. A hardened heart is strong like a stone, but it is also lifeless like a stone. It cannot feel deeply, and it cannot give deeply. And slowly, without realizing it, you become part of the same coldness you feared. This is one of the traps many people fall into. They see the harshness of the world, and they believe the only way to survive is to become harsh themselves. They see the selfishness around them, and they believe the only way to protect themselves is to be selfish as well. They see the anger, the cynicism, the distrust, and they start to absorb it unconsciously. This is how the coldness spreads, not through villains, not through monsters, but through ordinary people who are tired, afraid, and trying to protect themselves by copying the atmosphere around them. The second trap is withdrawal. When the world feels too chaotic, some people retreat into isolation as a form of safety. They pull back from relationships, from community, from vulnerability, and even from their own dreams. At first, this can feel comforting, like entering a quiet room after standing in a loud crowd. But over time, withdrawal becomes a cage, a silent one, a comfortable one, but still a cage. The danger of withdrawal is that it does not stop the world from being cold. It only stops you from being part of the warmth that could change it. If every good person retreats, who is left to carry the light? If everyone who still believes in kindness steps back, who remains to show a different way of living? This leads us to the third trap, losing faith in humanity altogether. This is one of the most painful losses a person can experience, not because humanity is perfect, but because hope is essential for the human spirit. When you start to believe that people are unchangeably cruel, that kindness is pointless, or that compassion is weakness, something within you begins to wither. The truth is that most people are not cruel by nature. They are simply overwhelmed, afraid, confused, or disconnected from themselves. When the atmosphere clears, when the noise quiets, when the emotional smog lifts, many of these same people rediscover their warmth. The human heart naturally drifts toward connection when conditions allow it. This brings us to the path that sits between hardening and withdrawing. It is the path of what I call aware engagement. Aware engagement means staying involved in the world without absorbing its negativity. It means keeping your heart open without letting it be unprotected. It means seeing the darkness clearly without allowing it to shape your identity. It means walking through the storm without letting the storm walk through you. Think of it like walking through rough weather. You do not pretend the storm is not real. You do not stand outside without shelter, but you also do not lie down in fear. You keep walking with awareness, with intention, with grounding. You respect the storm, but you do not surrender to it. This is how you remain human in a dehumanizing time. One of the most practical ways to practice aware engagement is to protect your attention. In an age of relentless stimulation, your attention is one of the most valuable things you possess. Whatever captures your attention shapes your inner world. If you spend hours consuming conflict, fear, outrage, and negativity, your spirit will begin to reflect that input. You will become anxious, cynical, or numb, not because you are weak, but because you are human. Attention is nourishment. What you feed your mind becomes the tone of your inner life. This is why reducing noise is essential, limiting how often you dive into online conflict, being mindful of how much news you consume, being selective about the voices and the energy you allow into your space, choosing people who uplift you rather than drain you. This is not avoidance, it is wisdom. You cannot be a source of warmth in the world if you are constantly filling yourself with emotional poison. You cannot give what you do not have. Another essential practice is discernment. Discernment is the ability to sense when something feels off, even if you cannot yet explain why. It is a type of intuition that grows stronger the more you use it. With discernment, you begin to notice the difference between someone who is genuinely kind and someone who is performing kindness. You notice the difference between a message that empowers you and a message that manipulates you. You notice when a situation is calling you to speak and when it is wiser to stay silent. Discernment allows you to navigate a chaotic world with clarity. It gives you an internal compass when external signals are confusing or contradictory. It helps you avoid being misled by illusions or distractions. The final practice is grounding yourself in something deeper than the chaos around you. Grounding means knowing what you stand for, what you value, and who you are, even when the world around you tries to redefine those things. Without grounding, you are easily swept away by whatever current is strongest. With grounding, you can face the storm without losing yourself. For some people, grounding comes from faith. For others, it comes from commitment to family, purpose, creativity, or the desire to contribute something meaningful to the world. What matters is not the form of the grounding. What matters is the anchor it provides. Without grounding, the coldness of the world can freeze your spirit. With grounding, your spirit remains warm even in winter. But the most important part of aware engagement is this: you must keep your love warm. This is the heart of everything. In a time when the world is becoming colder, the most radical thing you can do is refuse to let coldness enter your heart. The most powerful act of resistance is to stay kind. The most revolutionary stance is to continue loving people even when they disappoint, misunderstand, or hurt you. Love is not weakness. Love is strength under control. Love is clarity in chaos. Love is the light that darkness cannot overcome. You do not love people because they always deserve it. You do not stay kind because the world rewards it. You do not keep your heart soft because it is easy. You do it because that is who you are, and no one can take that from you unless you hand it over willingly. The truth is that your kindness has ripple effects you will never see. A small gesture, a warm word, a moment of patience can change the tone of an entire day for someone else. A stranger may carry your kindness longer than you imagine. A spark of warmth can light a path for someone lost in fog. Kindness does not always return directly. Often it travels like wind, touching people far beyond your sight. But it always matters. Always. And this brings us close to the turning point of the entire message. A point that reveals why your presence, your warmth, and your clarity are more important now than ever. There is a pattern unfolding in the world that many people sense but cannot fully articulate. It is the feeling that we are standing at a crossroads, a place where two paths are beginning to emerge more clearly every day. One path leads toward authenticity, clarity, connection, and truth. The other path leads toward imitation, confusion, illusion, and emptiness. These paths are not external roads. They exist within every human being. The choice between them happens quietly, in the small moments of everyday life. It happens in the way you respond to hostility. It happens in the way you choose what to focus on. It happens in the decisions you make when no one is watching. It happens in the posture of your heart toward the world. The truth is that there is a counterfeit version of humanity spreading through modern culture. It looks shiny on the surface, with its curated images, polished performances, and constant pursuit of attention. But beneath the surface, it is hollow. It prioritizes appearance over substance, noise over wisdom, reaction over reflection, and dopamine over depth. This counterfeit version of humanity drains people of meaning. It convinces them that value comes from how they are perceived rather than who they truly are. When people invest too deeply in this imitation, they begin to lose themselves. They chase validation rather than purpose. They chase popularity rather than character. They chase pleasure rather than fulfillment. And when those things fail to satisfy, as they always do, the emptiness becomes anger. The frustration becomes coldness. The disappointment becomes cynicism. This is why you see people lashing out in comment sections. This is why envy and comparison have become so common. This is why people seem to delight in tearing others down. When your spirit is starving, sometimes you try to eat whatever is nearby, even if it is bitterness. The tragedy is that many people do not realize they have been pulled into this counterfeit world. They think they are expressing themselves, but they are performing. They think they are connecting, but they are broadcasting. They think they are living, but they are curating. They think they are becoming free, but they are becoming trapped in a cycle of endless comparison. And yet something beautiful is happening alongside this, a quiet awakening. More and more people are beginning to sense that there must be something more. They are tired of the noise, tired of the pressure, tired of the performance. They are looking for deeper meaning, deeper truth, deeper grounding. They are waking up to the realization that success without soul is empty, and connection without presence is unsatisfying. This awakening often begins in unexpected ways. Sometimes it starts with a moment of exhaustion that forces a person to step back and reevaluate their life. Sometimes it comes from a painful event that breaks down their illusions. Sometimes it arises from a moment of beauty that sparks a memory of who they used to be. Sometimes it comes from encountering someone whose calm presence feels like clarity in a cloudy world. These awakening moments are not dramatic. They are quiet. They are subtle. But they shift the direction of a person's life. This is why your presence matters more than you realize. You might be the calm voice that someone else needs to hear. You might be the warm light that reminds someone of their own humanity. You might be the stable presence that helps someone navigate their own storm. You might be the reminder that compassion still exists, even when people forget what it looks like. Your influence extends beyond what you can see. You may think you are just one person, but every person influences the atmosphere around them. Every act of warmth pushes back against the cold. Every choice of patience pushes back against chaos. Every moment of clarity pushes back against confusion. These small choices add up. They accumulate. They shape environments and relationships and communities in ways that are too subtle to measure, but too real to ignore. Many people think they need to change the entire world to make a difference. They believe that influence must be global to be meaningful. But the truth is that the greatest revolutions begin inside the human heart. They begin with one person deciding to live differently. They begin with one person choosing kindness when anger is easier. They begin with one person choosing integrity when compromise is tempting. They begin with one person choosing presence in a world of distraction. When you choose warmth in a cold world, you become a kind of lighthouse. You are a steady point in the storm. Not perfect, not unshakable, but steady enough to help others find their way. There is a quiet phrase that captures this idea well. Be the warm one, not the loud one, not the perfect one, not the one who tries to fix everything, simply the warm one. The one who keeps a soft heart in a hard time. The one who keeps a generous spirit in a selfish time. The one who keeps a clear mind in a confusing time. The one who keeps love alive in a world that tries to suffocate it. Being the warm one does not mean you never set boundaries. In fact, warmth requires boundaries. It requires knowing when to rest, when to say no, when to protect your spirit from being drained. Warmth without boundaries burns out quickly. True warmth is sustainable. It heals rather than depletes. Being the warm one does not mean being naive or blind to the realities of the world. Warmth is not ignorance. Warmth is strength with softness. It is clarity with compassion. It is courage with tenderness. It is wisdom without cynicism. Being the warm one also does not mean becoming a savior for others. You are not responsible for healing everyone you meet. You are simply responsible for not losing yourself in the process of walking through a hurting world. And that brings us to one of the most liberating truths of all. You are not responsible for fixing everything. You are responsible for your choices. You are responsible for your reactions. You are responsible for your presence. You are responsible for the energy you bring into the world. That is enough. More than enough. Many people feel overwhelmed because they are trying to control things far beyond their reach. They worry about the state of the world. They worry about the direction of society. They worry about the actions of people they cannot influence. This kind of worry drains the spirit. What truly empowers you is shifting your focus from what you cannot control to what you can. You cannot control how others behave, but you can control how you respond. You cannot control the atmosphere of society, but you can control the atmosphere you carry. You cannot control the world's coldness, but you can keep your love warm. Once you focus on your sphere of influence, something shifts internally. You stop feeling powerless. You stop feeling overwhelmed. You begin to understand that every moment carries a choice, and every choice is a vote for the kind of world you want to live in. Do you respond to rudeness with patience or anger? Do you let someone's negativity poison your mood, or do you let it pass through you? Do you hold on to hope when others choose despair? Do you stay connected to your humanity even when others forget theirs? These small decisions shape not only who you become, but also the environment around you. One warm person can soften an entire room. One calm person can quiet a heated conversation. One patient person can prevent a conflict from escalating. One encouraging person can change the trajectory of someone's day. And over time, these small acts create a ripple effect that spreads far beyond anything you can see. This is why your presence matters now more than ever. The world is going through a time of instability, confusion, and spiritual turbulence. Many people are lost, overwhelmed, or disconnected from themselves. And in times like this, the world does not need more noise. It needs clarity. It does not need more anger. It needs steadiness. It does not need more coldness. It needs warmth. You are capable of being that warmth. You are capable of being that clarity. You are capable of being that steady presence. Not because you have all the answers, not because you have everything figured out, but because you are willing to stay human in a time when many people forget how. If you walk through the world with awareness, with grounding, with compassion, and with a warm heart, you will change more than you realize. You will become proof that humanity has not disappeared. You will become evidence that even in a darkening world, there are still places where the light shines. You will become a reminder that love is still real, still powerful, and still transformative. And if enough people choose this path, even quietly, even imperfectly, the atmosphere shifts. The spiritual air becomes clearer. The emotional smog begins to lift. The coldness loses its grip. The world becomes just a little warmer, one person at a time. Before we end, there is one more truth to hold close. Trust what you have been feeling. You are not imagining the change in people. The shift is real. The coldness is real. The tension is real. But so is your power. So is your warmth. So is your ability to walk through this moment with a clear mind and a gentle spirit. The world may be changing, but you do not have to change with it in the ways that do not serve you. You can stay soft without becoming weak. You can stay kind without becoming naive. You can stay connected without being consumed. You can be guided not by fear, but by intention. And if you ever doubt the impact of your warmth, remember this: every small act of kindness you offer is a seed planted in soil you may never see bloom, but it blooms nonetheless. It ripples outward in ways beyond your knowing. And collectively, those ripples can change everything. Stay rooted in truth, stay gentle in spirit, stay strong in heart, and stay warm. The world needs that more than ever.